Today is Thursday, November 17th, 2016. My name is Sarah Schneider, and I'm conducting an oral history interview with Nick Agon Kresky of the Orlando Geekhoras. The interview is being conducted at the UCF Center for Emerging Media in Orlando, Florida. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
And can you start off by stating your name for us?
Sure, my name is Nick Agon Kresky.
Thank you. And could you start off by telling us where you were born and how long you've lived in Orlando?
Sure. I was born in Duluth, Minnesota. I grew up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and I moved to Orlando in 2010.
Okay, and what brought you to the Orlando Geekhoras?
Looking for kind of an outlet, something different. When I was younger, growing up in Michigan, I was brought to Milwaukee Pride as kind of a celebration of my high school graduation, and I got to see I think they were the Brew City Chorus. It was the LGBT chorus over in Milwaukee, and when I moved to Orlando, I was like, Orlando's big enough, they should have something, so I went and I Googled it, and sure enough, there they were.
And so can you tell us about some of your favorite productions or performances you've done through the chorus?
My first performance was Rainbows Over Broadway. It was a 2011 spring concert. I really enjoyed that one because it was just a lot of campy fun, just kind of celebrating the community. And then I'm not a fan of the music from our Pillow Talk performance. I like the cohesion and it had a great storyline, lots of great AV. So I like a show with a good production.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if you already said,
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been a part of the Geekhoras?
I've been with the chorus for about 5.5 years.
And have you participated in any of the Gala events?
Yeah, I've been in 2 different Gala events.
Okay.
Yes.
And where were those located?
They were both in Denver. So in 2012 and 2016 as well.
Okay. And can you tell me more about the 2012 Gala event and what your experience was like there?
Sure. In 2012, I needed a little bit of escape too, and I'd finished a relationship months and months prior, and I just kind of started a romantic interest with another chorus member, and then 2012 I guess was just more about learning about the gay choral movement. I never knew there was an actual movement, and kind of learning about the sense of community that comes from gay choruses.
And so getting to Pulse, could you tell me a little bit about how you first heard about the Pulse shooting?
Sure. My husband Manny and I were working on renovations of the house, so we're stuck sleeping downstairs on these little trundle beds, and we started getting like random phone calls and text messages, and it's really early in the morning, and I'm trying to sleep. I had to work in the morning. I'm old and I'm tired. So I'm checking the messages, and everybody's checking to see if we're okay. And I mean, instantly your mind is what's going on. And so as we were going into Facebook and the media, checking CNN.com, you realize that there was the incident at Pulse happening. Then we're having to reassure everybody at like 3 o'clock in the morning that we're okay. Please let us sleep. We didn't really know the gravity of the situation until much later.
And what did you do the rest of that Sunday?
That Sunday, I'd actually had to go into work. And so I got in there. It was an early morning shift, so of course you got all those phone calls, and then you're like, I have to report to work. And I work at a local theme park with lots of young people that have been out in the clubs all night. So that's when they started doing the body counts, and we're sitting in the break room getting ready to start our day, and we didn't know who was going to show up or who wasn't.
And what were your thoughts as sort of the rest of the day unfolded in those few days following Pulse?
It was completely surreal because when you're out working with guests, you had to ignore that it even happened. Escapism is all about the theme park industry, and as a employee, you have to go out there and escape with them. Nothing bad ever happens in the theme park. And so you had to take that part of your brain and switch it off. And you're really walking a fine line of fantasy and reality.
And so what was the Orlando Geekhoras' response like in those first few days and in the weeks following?
It was insane. Out of nowhere, we started just getting emails and messages as members from our leadership. We've been asked to go in. The first night we were asked to do a vigil over at the church, and we were asked over at MCC, and we were asked not to advertise anything about it on social media because we didn't really know how dangerous the environment was going to be. And so it was all kind of under wraps. And at that time, it was such a shock for myself that I had declined the invitation. But then the following day, when they had decided to go and do the performance at Dr. Phillips Center, I decided, it's about time just to kind of gauge, what community am I walking out into. The chorus's response was just incredible, though. It was probably the most organized I've ever seen us. We're all about singing, we're all about going out and having fun with a message. And now we're expected to take all of these cats and herd them and tell them where to be and how to be. And we had just invested in this, Chorus Connection, which is a really great app and kind of organizational software for courses. And so we were able to just within an hour or two respond to a vigil request, and you all of a sudden had representation. We'd never been that organized before that I ever recall.
So what was your experience as a member of the Geekhoras participating in vigils and memorial services and other events?
It was a mixture of trying to find some sort of self-soothing and trying to project a message of caring and wanting to support the greater community. You're in the end, you're trying to figure out who's actually supporting who, and just kind of coming to a realization that we were all in it together. We were all supporting each other, whether it be a person standing 300, 400 people back, or a person standing next to you on stage.
And what did you think when you participated and experienced the reaction of the local community? What did you think about the local reaction?
It was extremely overwhelming. I grew up in a really rural, conservative area. I grew up in a time and in a place where being gay could, send you home in a black bag. It was a dangerous time. You don't talk about it, you don't act on it. And then I come into this community where, it was like the second night, and we're still trying to figure out how many people and what was going on, and you have this huge gathering, right on the lawn of the Dr. Phillips Center, and you look out there and there's no more green space. There were so many people there. It was so surreal to see that level of support for the LGBT community, and then, the city as a whole.
And what other moments stand out for you in that time period of all the vigils and events and things happening? Do any other moments come to mind?
I think, just. I'm sorry. They had the dogs. They had the. I don't know how many times I was in human services for 10 years, and I really believed in pet therapy. I loved it, and I knew that in times of crisis, people would come in with these therapy dogs, and it was just to kind of bring a little soothing and maybe even kind of just ground you just for the moment. And I realized the gravity of the situation and how much of a tragedy on our community is. Again, this was all surreal. There's no reality to this. And I realized how bad it was when the therapy dogs were there and they had traveled miles to get there. And they're walking through the crowd with these dogs because this is something I had studied, this is something that I knew. And it felt great because in participating in loving on the dog that's there, but again, to realize the reality of the situation that these dogs were there.
What did you think about or experience in terms of the national, maybe even international, but broader reactions to the event beyond just the local community?
Can you rephrase the part?
What did you think about the reaction of people beyond Orlando to the Pulse shooting?
I guess as the chorus traveled, we got to maybe witness a very large, it's a greater view of that. I mean, you see responses on CNN, you see responses on Facebook, and you're watching the feeds and whatnot, but you realized support, but you didn't really feel it until you walked to the car rental desk and they look at your driver's license and they say, "Oh, Orlando," and then they want to talk about it, and they're looking for some sense of closure as well. You don't realize that it hurt our community, it hurt our city, but it also impacted the nation pretty heavily for the couple weeks that it was running in the media. And we, even after Denver, Manny and I, my husband and I, went to California for a couple of days, and you couldn't, we were trying to just escape Pulse for a little bit. We're just gonna go have fun and whatnot, but when you hand over your driver's license, or they ask you to fill in the visitor's book, and then they say Orlando, and then they want to talk about it, you realize that it comes from a place of genuine warmth and kindness, but it's, again, very overwhelming. You realize how big this was.
And so can you tell me now about the Gala event in Denver in 2016, so after Pulse, and what that experience was like?
Oh, that's a lot to tell. We're talking about 2012, 2016?
Whichever do you like,
Okay,
but I was
sure.
thinking 2016.
So in 2012, we're the campy little choir with the Mickey ears, and everybody loves to come to Orlando because we bring the fun and we bring the little silly with us, and our songs tell a story. It's very kind of, you get the warm fuzzy and you leave. This time when we went, we didn't even have to sing get accolades, to get warmth. The first day we were invited to sing along with a couple of the choruses, and we're basically just kind of backup, right? Just walking in, doing our lines, and then leave. And the crowd didn't let us leave. The crowd wouldn't even let the concert start because we were the last people to walk into the hall. Nobody announced us, they just saw our shirts, and there was an immediate standing ovation just because we were walking. Sorry. Just because we were walking into the hall. You could, you could see just our presence, you could see people crying, you could see them holding each other. And it's hard, initially it was hard because we were the group that was invoking tears, but then you realize we were the group that was invoking solidarity. There were banners everywhere that says, we stand with Orlando strong. These are probably from people that may have never even been to our city, and there they are standing with us, supporting us because, their brothers and sisters were attacked. We performed 3 different times when really initially we were supposed to only perform once. We were supposed to perform this cheesy little montage that we pulled over from our spring show, and it just within moments of the incident, we realized we had to completely change the whole set and pull from whatever we could to create something that was that was heartfelt, that would maybe bring about some sort of healing. We had our invitation for the first night, and we did our performance. And again, these performances are timed, so the minute you hit the stage, you have X amount of minutes to perform and get off. They moved our set to the end because they knew they couldn't time us. They knew that just by walking on the stage, we would have to wait for the applause to end. And it was right. We walked in, there was standing room only. We'd never had that before. The amount of support and warmth that outpoured was just incredible. And then there we were again. For my goodness, it's an engendered species. I can't even remember. There are so many. And again, it was just our presence that just kept on bringing the crowds. People wanted to feel like they were a part of us, and I really hope that we were able to make that happen for them. That we were able to help them find some kind of closure or some sort of healing as well.
And how did people interact with you from the other courses on a personal level outside of the actual performance when you met people?
Sure. The first night I was afraid to even wear my Orlando shirt because I knew people would want to talk to us about it, and I personally wasn't ready. I didn't want to be Orlando. I just wanted to be a Gala singer. And then you run out of clothes. No, I'm kidding. No. I saw some of the other chorus members wearing their shirts, realized it was going to be okay to wear mine, but as soon as I put it on, random people want to hug you. Even people that aren't even going to the Gala conference, they're just, on the bus with you trying to get somewhere downtown, want to hug you. And it was wild. I'm a hugger. I'm not opposed to human touch, but oh my goodness, it was a lot.
And I'm also wondering if Pulse as a site meant anything to you before the shooting, and what, if anything, it represents for you now.
Before the shooting, it was a place where the kids go. And I know I'm not that old. I'm in my mid-30s. But the crowd that attended Pulse was, a younger crowd, a trendier crowd, maybe a thinner crowd. But, they were, it wasn't typically the place that I would go to. It wasn't my home bar, I guess. I knew of it, I drove by it. It looked like a great, fun place. And I thought, there were times where I intended to go and visit just because it'd be something different, but I don't know. I felt like I would be a little out of place. Afterward, it just became, just a living memorial. It sits there and it almost makes, it's kind of a mark of this overcoming silly divisions that are even in our own community, in the LGBT community. We create our little cliques, our little groups, and you realize that, we're all dealing with the same struggles, and we're all dressed in the same flesh. And to drive by the building anymore is, the first time it was horrific. I tried to days upon days, just avoiding streets to get around it and not having to pass it. But then the first time I passed it, reality sank in that, yeah, this is the place. And now the building itself is almost like a mausoleum. It's hard to look at it. It's hard to drive by it. We had coworkers from our company that had passed away in the tragedy. And it really brings it home every time, how much hatred can really impact a community and how much destruction can happen because of it. It's no longer, the place that you might go on a Saturday. It's now the site of the worst, massacre in modern American history.
And did social media play any part in your reaction to or experience with the aftermath of the shooting?
Social media became kind of an outlet to form your thoughts. You're able to edit the words that you're typing. You're able to process things as you're putting it out. So it almost becomes a live journal. It was nice to see the support from others. It also gave an opportunity to educate people. Pardon me. They're immediately, as with any other public shooting, you start having these discussions about gun control legislation. You start having discussions about mental health. It runs the whole gamut. And social media just became kind of a safe place to have those kinds of discussions.
And do you have any thoughts about what the long-term consequences might be for the Orlando gay community or for the broader Orlando community, or what you might hope the long-term impact of the shooting would be?
The long-term consequences. Initially, I was afraid that we would be stuck going back into our little boxes, and maybe being less out, being less true to ourselves. Obviously, it seems like the exact opposite has happened. You see this meme, you're just pissed off the gay community, watch out, that kind of, we get stuff done. And sure enough, I strongly believe that. It's my hope that for our city, we develop a tolerance for each other. It's a big enough city to get lost in, but it's small enough to know people. And so really hoping that this gives us a chance to reach out and get to know people that you normally wouldn't associate with, you normally wouldn't talk with. On a broader scale, I don't know how realistic it is, but I really do hope that we begin to fund, better mental health treatment. We begin to look at more sane gun legislation. If 49 isn't enough, then, what is?
And what other reflections might you have about the Pulse shooting or about your involvement in the Gay Chorus or anything else that you've been thinking about that we haven't talked about?
Let's see. Don't forget how your actions affect others. Whether it's considering acting out on such a grand scale as the shooter did, or if it is just wanting to lash out at somebody. Don't forget how your actions affect other people. Step outside of the box, step outside of the tunnel vision. I hope that's one of our lasting legacies.
Is there anything else we didn't talk about that you'd like to say or share?
Not that I can think of. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We really
Yes, I
appreciate
appreciate
you
it.
talking with us.